All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go over the CSU General Education requirements. And if you were to come in and see a counselor at SRJC, this would be the yellow form that you would be given. And you can use the CSU GE to obviously meet the general education requirements for a CSU campus. You can also use the CSU General Education requirements to meet the requirements of an associate's degree at SRJC. So there's 3 GE options at SRJC. Option A is for non-transfer students. Option B is the CSU, and option C is the IGETC, which we'll be going over next week. So the option B is 39 units of general education courses. You will have 9 more units of general ed to be done once you transfer. However, those are in upper division courses. You have to have a minimum of 30 units in general education in order to transfer. So if you're in one of those majors of a science or engineering major, you may not have time to do all the general education, but you will be required to have at least 30 units, which is quite easy with your major. That's not a problem. But as part of that 30 units, you have to have Area A and you have to have Area B4 done, and those grades must be a C or better. You can use a pass grade because a pass grade at SRJC is considered a C or higher. So the first section is Area A, and that's your English language communication and critical thinking requirement. And so Area A1 is oral communication, and this is now Comms 1 or 60. It used to be Speech 1A or 60. So if you took Speech 1A or Speech 60, it's still going to meet this requirement. It's not going to be a problem for you. Area A2 is the written communication, and you would need to have English 1A. There's only one choice there. Unless you completed an AP course, then you would get the units here, okay? And then Area A3 is critical thinking, and that's communications 3 or 9. Again, that would have been speech 3A or 9. So if you did it under speech, again, you're totally fine. Or you could take English 5, or you could take philosophy 3 or 5. So you only need one class. We're just giving you options as what you could take as far as critical thinking goes. Now, maybe you've attended a different college, and if so, you would want to have those transcripts evaluated by SRJC Admissions and Records Department so that we could see what you did at the other school and where it lands on the GE sheet. The next area is Area B, and it's your scientific inquiry and quantitative reasoning. You need 9 units in this section. So you need 1 physical science, 1 life science, one of those needs a lab, and then you need math. So again, you have choices here. You could do astronomy 3, okay? And with astronomy 3, you could also register for astronomy 3L or astronomy 12, okay? So for astronomy, the lab is not part of the lecture. You would register for the lab separately. However, if you came down to the life science and you wanted to do a lab with the life science, you could register for botany 10, which has the lab included in the lecture. So when you go to register for botany 10, you would see that the lab is included. So you just depends on the class. You could take astronomy 3 without the lab and then do the botany 10 with the lab. Or you could take anthro 1 without a lab, and up in the physical sciences, you could take geology 1 and 1L. So however you want to do that is totally fine. The math is determined by your major. So depending on what major you choose, that would determine what math you're going to do. So if you're a psych major going to Sonoma State, you're going to need Math 15 statistics. If you're an engineering major going to San Jose State, you're going to need the Calc series. So it just varies. If you're an English major, they don't care what math you do. You just need to have a math done. So you'd want to speak with a counselor about what would be best for you to do as far as math goes. Area C is the arts and the humanities, and this is 9 units. So you're going to need 3 classes. You're going to need 1 class from the arts, 1 class from the humanities, and the 3rd section can be from either C1 or C2. Okay, so it's up to you. So again, if you are a theater arts major, then obviously taking some theater arts classes makes sense. Maybe you need theater arts 1 to transfer. Maybe you need theater arts 1 and 2 to transfer. So there's your C1 and your C3. So then for C2, you're just going to decide, what is this? Decide which one you want to take. So that's going to take some research on your part to look at the courses and determine what are these classes about and are they of interest to me, okay? Students come in all the time and ask counselors, well, what do you think I should take? Well, our interests are very different from your interests, so it's important that you do that research. Area D is the social sciences. So you need 3 courses from at least 2 disciplines. So what that means is you cannot take all of your classes in psych, okay? So you can have 2 psych classes, and then you could take Bad 10 or a communications class or a history class, whatever you wanted to do. Area E is 1 3-unit class. So you can take Child Development 10, you could take a counseling class, you could take Food and Nutrition 10, whatever's of interest to you. So I do want to point out, let's talk about Child Development 10. The plus sign does not mean Child Development 10 and beyond, okay? What that means is that class is listed somewhere else on this sheet and it only counts in one area. So Child Development 10 is also in Area D, okay? So you either assign those units to Area D or Area E, but not both. The only courses that double count are the U.S. History or Government. So in order to graduate from a CSU, you need 1 U.S. History and 1 Government. Those classes are listed in Area D. So if you take History 21, that would meet an Area D requirement and your CSU graduation requirement. If you take Political Science 1, that will meet 3 units in Area D, as well as the CSU graduation requirement. Okay? And so it's important, again, that you do some research. So let me show you one way to do this research. So if you go into the class schedule for the JC, let's see if this wants to come up here. So we'll go into the fall schedule. And let's look at some history classes. So let's say history 4.1. So for history 4.1, you get a description here, okay? But it's not a whole lot. Up in this area, if you change it to course outline, you're going to get more detailed information of what this class is all about, okay? And so you can see the descriptions there. You keep scrolling down, you're going to get course content, okay? What are the learning outcomes? What are the objectives of the class? Here's the topics and scope. So here's all the different areas that are going to be talked about in this class, everything that you would learn. Here's representative assignments, okay? This does not mean this is exactly what you will be doing. It's just giving you an idea of what the assignments could be, okay? And then there's some representative textbooks. Again, not what might be assigned, but what could be assigned. But it's just giving you more detailed information about what the class is about so you can do that research and determine, does this sound of interest to me? Okay. All right, so coming back to the GE sheet, the second page here just talks about some general information, full certification or partial certification, the GE certification when you go to transfer, that's done through admissions and records. And then here's some campus notes, okay? So History 21 was a class that I talked about that meets the U.S. History graduation requirement for the CSU campuses, and it's also in Area D. It also meets a lot of the campus diversity requirements. So here for Chico, here's History 21. Okay, so that class would triple count for you. Here it is for Sac State. Let's see, who else has it? Sonoma State has it. Here it is for their ethnic studies requirement. Okay, so there's lots of information on the back here that you could look to see, well, what else could I be doing that makes sense, make things double count for yourself. Okay, so if you have specific questions on classes or want some more information, you can always come into counseling, but you could also go to the department and talk with the department about the course and what kinds of assignments they would have and the information that would be covered. You can also look at what kinds of books would you be reading. What are the topics in the textbook? Or if you're reading literature books, what are those? That type of thing. So it is a little bit of research so that you do pick out the classes that are of most interest to you.